Have you ever been to the happiest place on earth? Or where the sun sets in November and never comes back again until January? Before Finland became one of the richest countries in the world, it was ruled by Russian Empire. The kingdom captured Helsinki in 1809 and continued to rule the region until its independence in 1917. It was not all smooth sailing after their independence. A civil war broke out between the government and the Labour Party from 1917 to 1945. The government, or the Whites, won the battle, and the country was then strongly associated with Germany, mostly because of negative sentiment during their occupation. The country was involved in the Second World War, and naturally took Germany's side. Because they lost the war, Finland is then obligated to pay war reparations to the Soviet Union for all the damages caused. Interestingly, this is what brought Finland into an industrialized country. The payment forced them to quickly produce goods with aid and loans. The country made amends with the Soviet Union in 1948, and from then on, it was heavily influenced by the Soviet Union. Finland experienced an economic downturn when the Soviet Union collapsed and during the early 1990s recession. But in 1995, it gained momentum thanks to the growth of Nokia and being admitted into the EU. From a humble, faraway land to one of the world's most innovative and prosperous countries, Finland has finally found its rightful spot. Although the country has undergone plenty of changes during its history, one thing never changes in Finland: its long, dark winter nights. During winter, people must endure almost complete darkness, with just a few hours of daylight for 3 months. This makes sense because Finland is part of the Arctic Circle, and it marks the southern extremity of the polar day and polar night. In the Finnish Lapland, which is the northernmost part of Finland, the sun sets in mid-November and rises in mid-January. Other parts may not be affected as much, but they still need to endure long nights and short daytime. Thankfully, this dark time is balanced out with long days of summer, where you can experience something called the midnight sun phenomenon. Nature decides to pay Finns back by giving them 24 hours of daytime for almost 2 months, from May to August. There's also SAD, seasonal affective disorder, that typically attacks people who live in places where there's no sunlight. Almost 85% of Finnish acknowledge that the season affects their mood in some way, and 12% of Finns suffer from SAD. Some people experience a lack of energy, sleeping disorders, social withdrawal, annoyance, sadness, and even weight gain. But the people are used to it and find ways to cope with the disorder. They will either move south for the time being to catch the sunlight or keep being active by exercising and socializing. Finland has come a long way from being one of the Soviet Union's territories to becoming one of the top 20 richest countries in the world in terms of GDP and GDP per capita. It also placed third in terms of income equality, which means almost all Finns are enjoying their country's wealth. It ranks high when it comes to civil rights, press freedom, and quality of life. This is because the country adopts primarily free market capitalism that diverts substantial spending to public services. Sure, taxes may be high, but you can enjoy plenty of perks such as free healthcare. This might be one of the reasons why Finland is the happiest country in the world. Believe it or not, since 2018, the country has been ranked top for 6 years in a row by the annual World Happiness Report. There's a saying in Finland that goes, "Being born in Finland is like winning a jackpot." There are plenty of reasons why Finns are so happy. Firstly is their beautiful nature. Unlike many developed nations, Finland still preserves most of their forests and lakes. There's also more focused on cooperation rather than competition, which leads to a more relaxed way of life. A low population and high income create a great foundation for a high standard of living and a superb educational system. Nevertheless, there's one thing that still looms in a dark cloud above the country. Despite being deemed the happiest country in the world, they have a high rate of suicide. It might be perplexing to some that a country that presents plenty of opportunities and a safety net to its people still suffers from a high suicide rate, but that's exactly what happens in Finland. Suicide makes up for 1/3 of the deaths in people between the ages of 15 to 24 in Finland, and the country has the highest mental diseases in the EU. You might want to blame the weather and seasonal affective disorders for this, but many researchers also relate the cause to social context instead. One is that suicide is still considered taboo in the country. Even though psychiatric care is free in Finland, people seldom want to use their services. This is because admitting you have depression is regarded as a weakness and humiliation. Others believe that the image of Finland being a happy nation glosses over ongoing challenges that its young people face regarding mental health. They might not even recognize that they're depressed and ultimately fail to seek treatment. Sometimes these people even feel guilt over the fact that they feel depressed when they're living in Finland. Fortunately, people are now starting to take notice of this phenomenon and have created breakthroughs. One of them is the online platform Mental Health Hub, which provides self-help tools, video therapy sessions, and information on the nearest treatment centers. There's also a petition that calls for guaranteed short psychotherapeutic intervention within a month of seeking help so that the government can prevent suicides before they happen. One fact that might be linked to Finland's high suicide rate is its drinking culture. There's this saying that you're allowed to drink to warm your body when the weather is cold, but Finns take it to another level entirely. Alcohol is an even bigger problem in the country than suicide, as it's the main cause of preventable deaths in most of Finland. Alcohol consumption has grown rapidly since the 80s, when it was only 2.6 liter per capita. It reached its peak in 2005, being 10 liter per capita. The level has gone down since 2021, being 7.6 liter per capita, but compared to other European countries, Finnish people still drink large quantities of alcohol in one go, which could cause a problem. Some have blamed the reform of Finland's Alcohol Act in 2018 to be one of the causes, which raised the maximum alcohol content of drinks sold in stores from 4.7% to 5.5%. There is also social issues. Experts believe that people who revert to alcoholism feel left out. They need a sense of belonging and security, a sense of community that won't leave them feeling lonely. One more piece of Finnish culture that's very closely correlated to their image is the sauna. That's because almost every house in Finland has a sauna. There's even a saying that says to build the sauna first, then build the house. It's estimated that there are about 3 million saunas in Finland. For a country of only 5.5 million people, that's an impressive statistic. There's even a famous Burger King with a sauna in downtown Helsinki. The 15-person sauna room is perfect for any type of celebration, and you can enjoy their Whopper while detoxing too. It's so integral to the Finnish part of life that sauna culture in Finland has been deemed an intangible cultural heritage by humanity by UNESCO. The sauna is not just a place to relax. There are also office buildings and companies that install their sauna on site. All government buildings, embassies, consulates, and the Office of Permanent Representation to the EU must have a sauna on their premises. It has evolved into a place of discussion and dialogue between two negotiating parties. Many believe that the atmosphere that the sauna provides will make people more relaxed and agreeable. Finland is considered one of the most progressive countries that fight for women's rights and equality. Ironically, it is also the highest rate of domestic violence against women. It is reported in 2021 that 1 in 3 women in Finland has experienced intimate partner violence, making Finland the second most dangerous country for women in the EU. The government has fully acknowledged this as a significant problem in the country and created an action plan for combating violence against women in the year 2020. They're now raising awareness, training officials, and directing more government grants toward the issue. Not only are these efforts directed toward the victims, but also the perpetrators as a means of prevention. Although there are still plenty of things to be done, Finland is on a good track to minimizing domestic violence. As we have explored, Finland, like any country, has its fair share of problems and challenges. It's also filled with interesting cultures that are uniquely theirs.